like fish and reel. How's it going, friends and family of the internet? Oh, don't go all the way into the full intro, Josh. This is just the break. We are back into the random take of the Real AF TV podcast, a show about fishing random takes from the land of 10,000 lakes. Tim,
Yes.
the random take, 16-bit games.
Hell
I've been
yes.
doing a lot of thinking about 16-bit games lately, and let
Okay.
me take you on a little bit of a journey, if I may.
Yes.
You, the listener, Tim, you, the other host.
Yes.
I was on vacation,
All right.
and it was the first time I've been on vacation with a child, my
Mm.
child.
Yes.
Oh, it was rough. It was rough, dude. I would never call it vacation, but
No.
but like any other time, I mean, it was great. It was great, and
Yeah. Good.
we'll talk about it off mic sometime next time we hang out, which hopefully is soon. Um,
Yeah.
the the place was nice. The weather was
Okay.
great.
Yep.
The travel was tough, and I knew going into it that there was going to be an arcade machine there, and I was so pumped on it.
All right. Did you know which one?
That's the thing, is it's just a
Oh.
photo. So
Oh.
from the photo, I'm like, okay, I think I know what we're getting into here. Hopefully, it won't be as crazy as I think it is, but I think I know what I'm expecting. And it was. It was a ROM machine. Do you know what I mean by that? It was
No.
it was it was a computer
Okay.
with a custom one program on it, and it brought up a custom arcade interface. And on that was a bunch of different options. There was just like, here's all the pinball machines that are on here, and here's all the NES
Okay.
machines,
I
and
get
here's all
you.
the
I
arcade
get you.
machines, right? Okay.
Yep.
So I thought that's what we were getting into. So I didn't have high hopes for it because usually ROMs are just they're rips of the original. Usually they don't hold up. Usually they have
Okay.
some
Yep.
kind of glitch and shit. Turns out the whole machine was just semi glitchy, but once you got into a game, dude, it was on. And it fucking worked like every time.
Nice.
So it was so exciting. So nighttime would come, we'd have dinner, game on.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Nice.
And I didn't play a ton uh because it was so glitchy that eventually I would just like it was hard for me. But anyways, I was playing 16-bit games on there aside from Paperboy that one time. Paperboy's dope. People
Yeah,
hate on
dude.
Paperboy. I love Paperboy.
So it's not. I don't know. I don't hate on it. It's fucking dope.
Yeah. And actually, I have the 16-bit version of Paperboy. There was a Paperboy. I was a Sega Genesis kid, and I have the
Yeah.
16-bit version of it. And I actually,
It was two, right?
to my
Wasn't there?
memory,
It
that was
was single
better.
Paperboy 2, wasn't it?
No, Paperboy 2
Yeah, I
was,
thought.
well, I think Paperboy 2 was on those systems, though.
Okay.
I think Paperboy 2 made it onto the 16-bit. If not, it made it onto the Super Nintendo, I think. And it was not the Paperboy that I'm talking about, because the Paperboy I'm talking about with this on the Sega Genesis was almost like a remake, re-release. Like they redid the graphics, but it still pretty much played the same. Because it's even
Okay.
different on the cover. It's not the blue Paperboy cover, but that was the game that I played, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
The cover I remember is like a kid on like a BMX bike, and it's
Hmm.
like a shot from like the street, looking up at him as he's like trying to pop over it. Bunny hop.
Yeah, yeah, that's Paperboy 2. Yeah, this and it
That's
was
the
a real
second. Okay.
kid. It was a real kid. Like it was
Right.
a
Yeah, it
real
was a real
photo.
person.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Now this is an illustration. But okay, so anyways, I played the 8-bit version on the arcade machine, and then I got into some of the 16-bit stuff, and it was sick, dude. It was so
Dude,
good.
yeah. 16-bit games are fucking sick, dude. For real. They're
They
like
are.
they withstand the test of time, like all of them
I
do.
think so. I
I mean,
now
unless they
I
suck shit to begin with, but I don't think if they were a good game then, they're a good game now.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I got from it. Now, I'm not gonna stand completely behind the racing games
Oh,
because
yeah,
it was
yeah, good point.
right, because as soon as things got 3D, you were like, oh, that's
Yeah,
what
right.
3D space is supposed to feel like."
Yes, exactly, yeah, racing game was a little bit different. I should say, like, anything that was a side scroller, you
Yes.
know? Or
Yes.
even fighting games. Side scrollers or fighting games, they were all dope.
Yep, yep. Even Paperboy, being an 8-bit game, I know at the one that I was playing was like, it still holds up because it's just you it's a side scroller in a different angle, right?
Right, that's one thing, like, I don't understand why people would even hate on it because it's the first of its kind. They're like,
To
"Yeah, it's
to
a
be
side
at that,
scroller, but
like
it's an angle, and then
yeah,
you have to dodge stuff and time stuff."
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's very similar to Frogger, except for you have an added, uh, thing to do because you have to throw the paper at the
Right,
right
right,
time. You have to have it
right.
timing. It's not you're dodging stuff just like you are with Frogger. Well, I guess Frogger, you decide when to go and when to stop, and Paperboy is like you're just going and you have to
There's
dodge
no
stuff and throw
stopping.
a paper.
Right.
Right. But dude,
But you're
I
not
thought it was
wrong.
dope.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I'm totally with you. And even with how crazy graphics are now and how amazing an open world RPG is, uh you play RPGs for the story most of the time, and a
Yep.
16-bit RPG totally holds up. Now that's not related to the arcade machine, but yeah, I mean, you said it. These games are just solid, right?
Hell yeah, dude. And all of like the so Super Mario Bros. Classic. Like
Right.
the original Super Mario Bros. Is so good.
Like on
Second one,
NES,
third
just
one,
the
too.
Nintendo version, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Super Mario World is just like another level, dude.
Like a different level.
It's j- it,
How?
it like
But it
everything's
is.
like yeah, it's just like the graphics are better. Like Mario has like a face, not just like a weird mustache. Like
Right.
everything looks better. Yoshi,
Mhm.
you get
Right.
Yoshi there.
Right.
Like you had the ability to be able to ride different stuff. Like
Mhm.
it opened up new worlds. It's not just you jumping on stuff. It's like you're Yoshi. Now you can his tongue can eat stuff from a distance and then you can use that as different powers and stuff. Like
Right,
just
right.
the possibilities of what the game was able to do was a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
new like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
colors even, like, I know,
Right.
like, you
Yeah.
could get different colors on the other ones, but you're like, "Oh, I got a yellow Yoshi. Oh, I got a red one." You're just like, "Hoofed, dude." It was that was dope stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
then
I completely
that
agree with
was
you.
when you introduced, like, the fighting games too, you know, where you're
100%, dude. That's when fighting games took off, and at that on that arcade machine, they had Street Fighter. There was Mortal Kombat and stuff like this. I was
yes.
fucking right, I was playing those games, dude, and they're
Dude,
solid,
what's
and think
crazy
about it. They're still built that way. They're 3D graphics now, but how do
yeah.
you play those games? Sideways.
Right, right. Yes, exactly.
They're not
And it's
3D
still
fighters, they're
crazy
still
too.
2D fighters.
Right, right. Yep. Well, Virtua Fighter was like 3D. You still use like side to side, but you could actually go, like it was a 3D
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
space.
You're right. So
But
the Virtua Fighter was actually a 3D fighter on the 16-bit platforms. You're right,
yeah,
but
it was still like a side scrolling mentality. It still had like the side scrolling camera, but if you wanted to dodge the opposite,
you give that
up and
sidestep.
down, I guess if you're because even when you're talking 2D, you still have it is that, there's left and right and then it's like up and down is still,
Mhm.
north and south or whatever, however you want to say it.
Okay, I gotcha.
But yeah, dude, the fighting, like the craziness was like, here's Street Fighter, and you're like, oh, that fighter's dope. And then they're like, here's Mortal Kombat where we're gonna use real people. And you're just like, what? And that was crazy too, because you're like, look at how realistic this looks. It's like because it's real people. And then
Right.
you have the most realistic looking people with the most hardcore fucking game of its time. I remember that being like controversial, like Mortal Kombat, like, oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
god, dude, murder. Just like, yeah, it's clearly all fake, but
Right,
that
right.
was when, people were still losing their shit. Like, these kids are gonna try to throw spears at each other. Like, fuck you and the video game's gonna do this shit. Are
Right,
you the
right.
people that came up with lawn darts? Like, oh
Wait
yeah,
a minute, aren't
get
you the
mad
people
at
that invented the lead tipped, uh, game of "Don't get in the way"
right, just
or it'll
throw this
stick you?
fucking thing up and let it stick and just be like, kids have not even thought about doing this until this. Like, bullshit. Kids used to shoot each other with BB guns for fun. We gave them something to stop them from doing that shit.
Dude, you brought up something that I didn't even think about with these is the real people thing, is this was, like, the closest thing this is what I was actually gonna say with Mario now, is, like, it was the it's like the perfect balance between cartoon and reality while still running, like, really, really well.
Yeah.
Because we
Yep.
switched to 3D at some point, and, that was the next gen and 32-bit era, and if you think about it, the RPGs were still staying flat because they were such big, giant games, right, across, like, multiple
Right.
discs, and a lot of them
Yep.
still remained flat, but, uh and the ones that stayed 2D, they could up their graphics and colors and everything like that. Sure, okay, but that's all cartoon. Uh, Mortal Kombat just fucking stayed the same. Like,
Yeah, dude.
they were just
Yeah.
like, "I don't know, it's fine. It's fine.
Right.
We're just gonna keep it that way."
Yep. Yep. Dude.
It's
Oh, it marked the beginning of so much different stuff. That was when you went from like the old school, just like, you know, Mario, um,
Mhm.
was all of it was just like do 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 do. Shit. Now I'm doing. I
Yeah.
have Super Mario World in my
I
head,
was gonna say
but
you
it was
that was
just like
World.
you had like the old school explosions where like
Right.
and it was just
Yep.
like the weirdest sounding noises, and you're like, "What? That I guess that was an explosion." And then you got Mortal Kombat, and you have real ladies and dudes, and they get like speared, and it's just like, yeah, and you're like,
Yep. Yep.
"Holy shit, dude! That was a real person's voice." Did you hear like what he sounded like when I fucked him up, dude? It was
Right.
so exciting when you could hear all those different noises.
Oh,
And then,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
there's, like, bass notes and stuff in the Super Mario World, the ding 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 bing
Mhm.
bunk, and then you go da-dum, boom, there and you go,
Mhm.
"Holy shit, look at" like, I
Oh,
was super
it
I don't know if
changed.
anybody else even got into that shit, but when you had all those different notes and stuff in the Mario game, it's just like, "Oh my god, this is
Yeah.
opening up a whole new world of sounds, a whole new world of games themselves," like
Mhm.
it was so exciting, and it all holds up.
Well, yes, I agree that it, I agree almost all of it holds up, uh, but I have to say almost all of it because it was good. Yes, the music and
Yeah.
stuff like that was good. The screams, basic stuff, but, I was playing the ROM of Street Fighter, the reals like, this is a rip off of the game cartridge, essentially,
Yep,
and you'd
yep.
fly over and it would go, "Japan."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like, that
Yeah,
is
that
nostalgia kicking in, trust me, because when you play that on the 32-bit systems or you play it on the arcade, it actually sounded way better because they had more memory and space and they could actually put a better record and all that stuff. So nostalgia's kicking
Right.
in a little bit there.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff doesn't. Yeah, but that was also like maybe like the weakest part of that game. Like the
Oh,
nostalgia kicks in,
100%.
but also like they probably didn't put a lot of time and effort. They're just like, it's gonna. Should we just have them say the name? Yeah, just record it real quick. Get in the booth. Japan, was that good? Yeah, dude, deal with it. Yep.
Yeah, whatever, dude. It's gonna be compressed all shit anyway. It's like
Yeah,
doesn't
nobody's
matter.
ever gonna talk about this ever again, especially not
Not in
30,
2022. It's
30
like
years
never gonna
later.
happen. Right? For sure. But I mean, you make such good points because have been I'm not a huge we talked about like what's old is new again, right? Like we did a
Yep.
random take on that. And I'm not a huge fan of like feeding nostalgia by doing direct remakes of things and, like eh, I want you to think of something different or find a gap in the market and make that. I would rather something new or at least find a gap and fill it up again with whatever is missing. And I say that because there's a new Ninja Turtles game coming out, dude. And I've been holding
Oh,
off on saying it because the whole Switch debacle, because that's probably where I'm going to buy it.
yeah. Yeah, dude.
And so there's a new Turtles game coming out. But I don't think that brawler space is really being fed that many games. That 2D side-scrolling brawler. Just a beat 'em up in general. It's I just
Yeah.
don't see it being fed the way that it used to be. Uh, well, you wanna talk about beat 'em ups? That's pretty much all we had in the 16-bit
True.
era.
Dude, yeah. I mean, even the shitty ones, like I still played a lot. I remember having
Yep.
Sonic Blast Man.
What?
It, yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is this one even?
What the
And he
fuck?
had like, he he had a chest. He almost looked like Optimus Prime, but like he was a real person. Like he looked like a real
Oh,
person in like a really good Optimus Prime like Halloween
cosplay?
costume. But then he had boxing gloves for some reason.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude. And you just
Yes.
and you'd like roll through like I don't know if there was a storyline in the book or whatever, but you'd like roll through the streets and the first one's like all these thugs and stuff, and then you get to the second one, like after you fight the boss, it's the exact same thing over and over and over again. But you get to the second one and it's like, like weirder stuff, and then I can't remember like the third one was like aliens, and then like the fourth one it's like just it gets harder and weirder. Like now they're kind of invisible, and you're like, well, I can still see
Kind
them
of.
pretty good, but yeah, what the fuck is?
That was one
Is-
thing I don't think that they could do very well. Well, because there's probably a memory thing, but like, yeah, I don't remember transparency being a really good thing back then. It's just like I'm invisible. Uh, no, you're just kind of like purple. I think.
right?
Like,
Yeah, I think I still remember it being a little bit like where they just made it more opaque because I remember like when in Turtles in Time when you get knocked out and you came back in,
yeah, you
you
kind of
couldn't like really
flashed
hit
and
anybody. Yeah, you were almost like
yeah,
invincible for like a little bit, like
you were
just so
for
you
sure.
didn't like
Hmm.
so you didn't float back in and get knocked out right away. Like you got a chance to figure out which guy you were. Like oh that's
Yeah.
me
Oh,
glowing.
yeah, for sure. That was definitely happening. Uh huh. 100%. That was
Yeah. So I
happening.
think
Yeah,
that's the best version of what they had.
I
Was
agree.
it
I
just
agree.
like we'll make it a little bit opaque. It's good enough. You know?
uh, so the speaking of turtles in time, dude. Again, sorry to bring this up, but it's available on PS4 too. I'm probably gonna get it on Switch. They're making a Cowabunga collection, a Ninja
Hell
Turtles
yeah.
Cowabunga collection. Check this out, dude. The original arcade game,
All
Turtles in
right.
Time, the
Yep.
arcade version,
Okay.
the original Ninja Turtles for NES, the arcade port of
I think I
Ninja
had that one. It
Turtles.
was hard as fuck.
Yeah, that's what I hear. And it was called Turtles 2 on the NES because they already made the original version. But Turtles 2 on the NES is a port of the arcade version, which
Okay.
is a sad port because the arcade was so much more powerful. But anyways, then they
Sure.
have Turtles 3, which was the like the Shanghai one from what I understand, you know?
Oh, was it a spin-off of the movie? I didn't see it. Or I
I think
didn't
so.
I
Yeah.
seen the movie. I don't think I've ever played that game.
Yeah. Nobody did
Yeah,
cuz
because
it was
Turtles
the end
3
of the
was where they went
NES.
back in time
Yeah, and
in
Turtles
the
3
movie.
was, the end of the NES era-ish,
Okay.
from what I remember. Then there's
Yeah.
a Nintendo game I've never even heard of, a Ninja Turtles called Tournament Fights. I've never heard of that one.
No, me neither. Uh-uh.
So so then here it is.
Wonder now.
They
I
got
wanna check it out now.
Yeah, I know. So I can't wait for this game to come out. I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? I'm jacked." So then not only is the Turtles in Time arcade version on there, they're gonna put the Turtles in Time NES version on their SNES version as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Tournament
That'd be cool
Fighters.
to play them
Oh, go
like
ahead.
back to back and see the big differences.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that's totally something I was thinking about on this because they have it's so weird. This is why I'm not a huge fan of nostalgia because they should have just picked one. Tournament Fighters, Tournament Fights, Nintendo Edition. Tournament Fights, Super Nintendo Edition. And Tournament
There's
Fights, Sega Genesis Edition. All three of them on there so that they can pump up the number of this is how many turtle games we have on this fucking cartridge. Like,
yeah,
get
I
out of here.
guess. Right,
That's so
right. Like
stupid, dude.
I don't understand. Yeah, one's like a little bit shittier graphics and the other one says Sega at the
Right when it
beginning.
boots up. It's so stupid. But so they're gonna have the tournament, the Turtles in Time Super Nintendo edition and the arcade edition. That would be that one because I think that one's our I think that's the one that me and you probably have the most like time invested in. It seems like from
Oh,
what we've
for
talked about.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
you actually
I
own that
played
one,
the
right? Like you have
I
the
do. Yep, I
you
have that
own the
one and I
OG.
have I'm pretty sure I have the original Ninja Turtles on Nintendo too still.
Oh, sick, dude.
And I played that one a lot, but as far as I remember, there's a couple of spots that are just hard as shit to pass. Maybe I could figure it out
Hmm.
now, but when I was a kid, hard shit,
You had a
bro.
hard time
But
getting
it's
by.
like,
Yeah.
it's in there.
Hmm.
Just thinking about it now, I can think about the graphics and exactly how
Hmm.
everything went and stuff. And I remember the
Hmm.
cover. The cover is gnarly cover art. For whatever reason, all the turtles have like glowing white eyes, and it looks almost sinister. Like you look at it, you're like,
Oh
they
yeah.
were always like really happy. They look badass in this. Like, what is
That's
up
right.
with this
I forgot
storyline?
about that. Yeah, I forgot about that. And that's how the new Turtles, not the newest version of like Next Gen, I think it's called, but like TMNT for Nickelodeon. Uh,
Hmm.
the one prior to this most recent one, they had that like where their eyes rolled back in their head, like went all white. It was like a battle mode thing. It was part of the story. They never really
Oh,
explained it. It
really?
just kind of happened. Yeah.
Huh.
Where the
Crazy.
peoples went away. Yeah. So
They're
now that
like
you say that,
sharks
I'm
now.
kind of like, oh shit. They just got that thing that just goes whoosh over their eyes.
Yep. Eyes roll
Uh
back in the head, black like doll's eyes.
oh,
That's from
did you
Jaws.
just make that up?
No,
Did you just
that's
make
from
that up?
Jaws. That's from
Oh,
Jaws.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've only watched Jaws all the way through one time, and that was because my wife was like, "What? You ain't never seen Jaws? We're gonna watch it." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Hells yeah. Yeah, it does. That
S-
one's a little bit old, but
Is it good?
uh,
It holds up.
it's once you get into the whole boat scene when they're out in the water, it's
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
that's once they're in the water, it's good.
Yeah.
But
You're
the
right.
the whole early part is weird. Not gonna
It's a
have her
little
cut open
different.
the shark and just have that boy spill out on the the just like
Forgot about that.
Jesus.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was a little rough. Okay, back to I want to talk about this Cowabunga collection one more time because there's 3 Game Boy games in there, dude. I
Oh, dope. Yeah, I
did
don't think I ever played a Ninja Turtle Game Boy game.
Me neither. And I played the fuck out of Game Boy. Like I
I did too.
have
I think I
Oh,
only
go
had
ahead.
2 games though. I played Super Mario. Oh, it was called something else on the Game Boy. Super Mario.
What was it?
It
Yeah, I
wasn't.
know which one you're talking about. We had that one
Yeah, it
too.
wasn't World. It was
It was
something else.
blue. Yeah.
I can't
Shit.
remember if it was
I
blue,
can't
but
remember what it's
it was
called, but
something. It
yep,
was
I
a
know which one you're
Land.
talking about.
Super Mario Land
Sounds
is what
right.
it was called. I'm pretty sure. And
Sounds right.
that one was different, dude. It's weird. It was
Mhm.
all right.
It was
It
good.
was one.
It was good.
Yeah,
Like
and
it
then
played well from my memory.
yes, I do remember playing it a lot. And then I had Pokemon. And I think those were the only 2 games I had.
Oh, nice.
But
I
I
had
played the shit out
Paperboy.
of them. You know, you didn't really need
Yeah,
much
oh,
more.
I know.
I had Paperboy on the Nintendo, so or I might
Oh,
have only
sick.
had
Yeah, see,
Paperboy 2 on the Super NES then, because if that's the picture, I'm
that
pretty sure that's
makes
the one I
sense.
had.
Yep. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
I so I bought Paperboy on Game Boy, and
Okay.
then that was like one of my first games I ever bought with my own money. And then we had the Mario game, but then we had Link's Awakening, and they
Oh,
remade
okay.
that on Switch. Like they did a full-on remake,
Yep.
and I remember parts of that game playing the remake because I
That's
never beat
cool.
it. I was a kid. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And even now I'm playing with a guide one in, every fourth play. I have to look up the
Okay.
guide to try to figure it out cuz it's hard. I mean, it's just like it doesn't
Sure.
point you, like new games they'll put like a fucking yellow glowing arrow. It's like, "Hey, go over here."
Okay.
It's like you have to pay attention to this. You have to pay attention to this game. And that kind of remake, I'm okay with because 1, I never beat it, so I'm going back and playing it. But,
Yes.
like, these direct ports where I'm gonna buy the Cowabunga collection, but, like, come on. You seriously put this fucking
Ri
tournament fighter game on there 3 times and ain't nobody ever heard of that shit? Come
Right.
on. Get out
I
of here.
wonder yeah, I wonder if it was, like, if they actually did just think that they wanted to go, like, nostalgic with whatever you had. So you literally not that they're, like, that much different, but you get to choose
Mhm.
the one you played, like, if you did have that game. You know, if you were one of the
Okay,
people that
okay.
actually had that where they're like, if you
Mhm.
played it on Nintendo, you can play the exact one, you know, you're not stuck playing the Sega
Sure.
one when you played it on NES. You know what I'm
Dude,
saying?
okay.
Like, if you want the
Yeah,
nostalgia,
I'm gonna
we
eat
wanna
my
give you
words.
exactly what you played.
Yeah, so okay, here we go. I'm about to eat my words super hard. You are you are 100% right, I think now, because this game is coming out on PC, it's coming out on
Okay.
Switch, it's coming out on PS4, right? Okay, so it's on all
Yep,
this
yep,
stuff.
yep.
Basically, PlayStation and probably Xbox would be a little bit harder to do, are the only 2 places where you can't get the controller connected that you used to play with. Did I say that?
Okay.
Did I say that
I
right?
get you.
Yeah.
Yes, I get you. Yep, yep. That made perfect
Yeah.
sense to me. Yep.
Yeah. I bet you yeah, fucking A. Because even on the arcade editions and I mean, actually on every system you could probably hook an arcade stick to and be good
Oh,
and
sure.
get that feel. But like the controller thing, man, fuck, I didn't even think of that. You just Yep. I'm eat my fucking words.
I didn't think of it initially either. It just hit me in this last part when you said it. I'm just like, oh, I bet that's what it is. I don't know. I didn't think of it initially, and then it just popped in.
Yeah. No, no, it's a
So,
great point.
and
Um
side note,
y
like I know we're talking
Mhm.
about old games, but just to touch on like how you were saying never beat it, that's why I want to play the remake of Final Fantasy 7
Yes.
because I had that game on the original PlayStation and
Okay.
for whatever reason there was something wrong with like the disc I had. I think I still have that game someplace.
Oh, yeah,
But
dude. That happened.
the the it was like every time I got to a certain spot like far in this game. I'm talking days.
If you beat the first disc, you were super far in that game. That's all there is to Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, always made it to the second disc. And then there was a certain point where I would save, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but then the data would corrupt.
Yep.
I played through that twice where it happened, and I never beat
Yep.
it. And the third time, I was just like, I am not putting this much time into it again. Just that, yeah, like I can't. For my mental
Yeah.
health, for my own mental
Right.
health, I cannot
Mm-hmm.
do this again. I did it
Oh
twice. The
man.
first time, it took me a while to get over it, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
let's do it again. And then the
I
second time, I'm
I
just like, I'm done with this game forever. And then they're like, we're making a remake, and I'm like, oh, I bet it will not like it won't corrupt this time, right? It can't. Wha-
Probably not, right? Or is it going to be the same
right,
thing? Are they going to recreate the corruption? What the fuck? No.
right, right. They know who I am. They got my information. They're just like, we gotta we're gonna ruin this man's life.
We're gonna really fuck with this guy.
Why Square Enix?
So, yeah, this is something we haven't spent a lot of time on, but dude, that game is my fucking game. Dude, that's my fucking game. So
Oh,
I could go on a
yes.
really long time about it, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is two things. I'm
Okay.
about to buy the remake for the second time.
For the second
Shame on
time.
me. Yeah. I'm going to buy it on PC because the DLC is only available on next gen systems and it's impossible still, even though I've been trying for months to get a PS5. So fuck you. I'm just going to buy it on my PC that will run it at
I
PS5
get it.
level
Yep.
and eat shit. Um so I beat it on PS4 the first time. The second thing is this is actually my happy version of nostalgia. Like uh, I'm not super pumped on buying the Kawabunga collection. I'm gonna do it, but I know that they're just saying, please rebuy these games that you loved as a kid. Hopefully they don't suck when you play them again. They won't because they're like we'll play the 16-bit ones most of the time, which we already said are dope.
Right.
They're just ports. This dude, full on reimagining of Final Fantasy VII without uh it is I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, but it's a full on reimagining. Like they could have called it Final Fantasy VII reimagined. It it delivers.
Yeah.
You're going to understand everything that's going on if you've played the first one. If
Okay.
you've never played the first one, if you've never played the OG, you're still going to get it and you're still going to love it and it's still going to be a full thing. But this is a like years long situation that they're getting into. And when you finish this one,
Yeah.
you just go, oh, okay.
Okay.
In the sense of like, that's when you really realize that this is a reimagining of Final Fantasy VII and it's not recreating it in the like sense of Cheaper by the Dozen just came out on Disney Plus again.
Yeah.
Without watching it,
It's dog shit.
same movie. You watched it? Did you watch it?
No, I looked at the reviews and said, not watching that one.
Yeah, because it's the same fucking movie made for the third
Dude,
time. Who gives a fuck, dude? Come
it's
on.
it's one of the lowest rated. I know this is a little bit Side note, but I'm gonna tell you real quick. The Cheaper by the Dozen, IMDb, it got a 3.9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 34%, which you're like, okay, so they're like, yeah, it's been done again. So what's the audience score though? 31. Even
Oh
less of the
boy.
people that watched it were like, I
Less.
like this movie.
Right.
That's
Right.
dude, to have less than a third of the people that watched it actually like enjoy watching it, that's
Right.
so dog shit.
Yeah. And that's the part that I'm talking about is like there's a point where you need to stop banking on nostalgia and start filling
Yes.
what's missing instead of trying to just hope that nostalgia makes you money. And to to bring this back to 16-bit games is these games are solid. People
Right.
continue to make quote unquote 16-bit games and they're solid. And that's
Yes.
because it's just a solid way like it's just a proven solid way to make games. 3D's
Yeah.
hard. But if you
Yep.
have a good fucking idea, man, and you can make decent graphics because the 16-bit era, like you said with Mario, that's the gap, that's the jump. Like you said with Mortal
Mhm.
Kombat, it's real fucking people.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like you can visually pick out what's awesome
Hell yeah.
in a 16-bit game. You go less than that and you feel like something's missing. You go more than that and you just start to get shading and shadows and everything like that, which people are doing now when they're making these quote unquote 16-bit games. They're adding extra shadows and extra things like that. But like, I- it's just
Right.
they're
Yeah, you remember
they're paying homage. They're still making an original piece. They're
right.
not just regurgitating the
You
past.
you remember that like secret thing in the Super Mario World where you find the white blocks or whatever you could hold down and you'd like go behind the blocks?
Oh yeah, dude.
You
That was in
couldn't
Mario
do that
3
shit
also
on.
sort of, but
Oh, was it on Mario 3?
kind of. I'm jumping ahead,
Wasn't
but
that was like the flute thing, right? That was like you could go above everything, wasn't it?
no, there was that one uh there were those like solid pieces that had the bolts in each corner. It's like in the
Oh,
first
you're
level.
right. I know what you're
And
talking
you could
about.
find there
Yeah.
was one spot, yeah, and you could drop behind that, but it didn't look I know where you're going with it.
Yep.
It wasn't the same
Yep.
thing. It didn't I feel like Mario World took that
Okay. Yeah.
to the next
Ran
level.
with it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we were talking about video games, but I got to go back back to it real quick. The Just to put in comparison, I haven't seen that Cheaper by the Dozen, but like since we were talking about nostalgia, it kind of plays into it too. That
Mhm.
latest Ice Age movie.
Oh god.
So the Ice Age
Even before that
Adventures
thing
of
came
Buck
out,
Wild.
I said, "What the fuck are they doing?"
So
So keep
I
going.
have a son, so like when new movies come out, I'm always like, yeah, let's give him, new movie, like yeah, it's a movie night or whatever.
Mhm.
And Buck Wild was in one of the other movies, and he was a cool character, and I'm like, that's pretty sweet, like I'll check it out.
Mm, okay.
And I thought it would be decent. Like the Ice Age movies are pretty good. This
Yeah,
one
they've done
is
alright.
dog shit. It is. Yeah, we've talked about other Disney movies or whatever. Bluey is
Yep.
hands down my favorite kids show. It is so well written,
Yeah.
and
It's also
Bluey
Australian.
Bluey puts out 8-minute long episodes.
Mm.
I would rather watch the same 8-minute long episode for the full duration, like looped, over watching this fucking movie, and it still got a 4.6 out of 10 on IMDb. It's a full point higher than Cheaper by the Dozen. And So the
and you
critics,
fucking hated it.
this movie is so dog shit. The critics gave it a 20%, which is worse than that other one. But the audience gave it a 45, which I don't know if it's just like these mouth breather things are like, my kid seemed to like it. Like, well, yeah, because your kid doesn't understand storylines and stuff. But dude, it is uh like they advertise this like a normal movie, and it is so shitty, so bad.
Really? Really?
Dude, I cannot get over how bad it was. It took me about the first 2 minutes where I just go, oh no. I signed up for like an hour and a half of this. Shit. I literally checked out. I was like playing on my phone. I don't even know
Right.
what happened the rest of the movie. I
Yep.
just know that
Because
it was literally worse than the worst kids shows out there.
oh
There's one
god.
my son
Oh
watches
god.
where it's like just these little colorful things that run around that don't even say any words. There's no dialogue, and that's better than Buck Wild.
Dude, that's so horrible.
It's dude, if you can get away with it, do not watch that movie. It's so bad.
Oh,
Don't
I
stray
will not
away
watch
from the
that.
one that has Buck Wild in it. I can't remember which movie that is. I want to say it's the one where it's like
I th-
where they introduce the dinosaurs where stuff starts thawing out, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I was gonna say I think it's no, it's Dawn of the Dinosaurs because stuff starts thawing out in the second one, I think, and then the third one is I believe the third one's Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah, and Buck
Either
Wild's
way,
in
I'm
that
not
one, and he's a
super
good
up to
character and
date on it.
everything's good, and I don't know what the fuck happened in this one.
And this
It's one of
movie's
those
oh
movies you're
shit.
watching and you're trying to understand like how did this get greenlit? Who wrote this script? Like all of this. Who said okay? Which one of these people decided that
Oh,
they would put it underneath
uh,
this, you know, like branch? Like who gave them the green light to say this is an Ice Age movie? Like there's so much where you're just like, how did this thing get made? You
yeah,
know, is it
yeah,
like a National Lampoons thing where they just gave up? Like it was, you know, National
yes,
Lampoons was great, and then eventually they're just like, whatever, it's dog shit, but say National Lampoon, and maybe we'll make some money off of it.
dude, yes, that is 100% what happened because
Probably
Disney used to be that company, and they dug themselves out of that hole because they were that company and they started to get shit on, and that was happening like that actually the 16-bit era of video games had something to do with that because they were making movies for kids and then they were just selling the franchises off and then these games were just too fucking hard for a kid to play.
yeah, dude, they
And
were hard,
And then they would make these shitty sequels, and nobody gave a fuck because they were shitty sequels, and it's just like Disney's
right?
really dug themselves out of a Apple style almost, where they had this hard time in the late '90s, early 2000s. They had to dig
True.
themselves out of, and and now those shitty 2D 16-bit like Aladdin and Lion King, they're back. Why?
Yeah.
They sucked then. They fucking sucked
Right.
then. Why are you gonna buy it
Yeah.
again? There's a whole
Right.
Disney collection of shitty
Uh,
Disney games.
all the
They're
Disney
and
games were horseshit.
yeah, and people are fucking buying them again because there's a Disney collection out there for 19.99 or whatever the fuck it is, and it's
Dude, that
just
was
like
like all the
DuckTales was
games.
okay.
Yeah, that was like all the games my sister had for the Sega Game Gear. I had like the fighting games, and she had like all the Disney games, and they were shitty. I would
They
throw them
suck
in when
so
you
hard.
got bored of like playing the other fighting games and stuff,
Yep, yep.
like Shaq Fu.
Yes. Which, by the way, also got a remake
Did it?
recently. 2 years ago, I
It's
think.
such a
Yeah.
weird, it's such a weird game because it's like all these actual like fighting style characters that they created, and then they're just like, and also Shaq,
And don't forget Shaq. Like, what?
Shaq Fu. Just like,
So did he invent his own fighting style? What is
right?
happening here?
Are they all? Is Shaq like the best one? Is he like if you choose
Right, right,
him, is
right.
he
So
the
if I
best
just pick
one?
Shaq every time, do I win?
Then I mean, he's pretty big, so
Right. So is that what's happening? I don't know.
right. Yeah.
Uh, which that was, I think, if I remember it correctly, that was another one of those 16-bit games where they were like doing real photos, like of it wasn't. I don't
Oh,
believe
it
it was
could have been
cartoon. It
on the
wasn't hand drawn.
Genesis. It was all cartoon on Game Gear.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if
Okay.
it was a
Then
different
it may
game
have
on
been.
Genesis.
I I played such a small amount of it. This is, dude. I think somebody did this. Fuck, man. I wish I knew this game, but I think somebody else did this. But like, I'm a big fan of just hard work because like Cuphead is one of my favorite games
Yeah.
of all time now. It's
Okay.
not nostalgia because I wasn't alive in the 40s and 50s.
Right.
It's it's a huge respect thing for me that that game is literally hand drawn.
Yes.
And
Yeah, you can tell.
yeah,
Not
and
in a
that
bad way.
happens.
Like you just know.
Right, right, right. And that was something that was happening in the 16-bit era. You remember Clay Fighters?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Dude, I think they really built those characters. I think they really animated that by
Dude, it
hand
was
and then put
crazy
and
how
took
many
pictures.
different fighting games there were. Like now that we're like
Oh
going
yeah.
back in
Now
this
that we're
nostalgic,
reflecting.
not just 16-bit
Yeah.
into like the next level 2 or what you saw in the there was that Primal Rage where it's just dinosaurs. Just a
Oh,
dinosaur
dude,
fighting
Primal
game.
Rage was sick. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was an arcade game too.
And then you got just all the different like everybody trying to make up their own different characters and some of them stick some of them didn't. You had like Streets of Rage and
Oh yeah.
uh Fatal Fury
Oh
and
yeah. I
Street
forgot the Fatal
Fighter
Fury.
and yeah,
Yeah.
there's quite a few of them where they're like, we're just gonna make up our own characters. They'll have their own signature moves, and some
Yeah.
of them stuck, some of them didn't. But it was crazy
Right.
how everybody's like pitching different fighting games and different characters and different worlds and different powers back then. And that's like
Yeah.
now you only have the ones that are just like tried and true. It's like Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter
Right.
and or not
Yep.
even Virtua
And
Fighter,
like,
Street Fighter and Tekken.
right. Are like the only ones
Right.
that keep making new games. Yeah. I mean, DOA, I think. Anyways, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, think about
Yeah,
how.
Clay Fighters, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah. No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That so like nostalgia or good games, like, well, it was actually a really good era because of what you just
Yeah.
said. It's just like
Mhm.
now we get 3 fighting games. They're all solid, they're all tried and true, they're all in
Yeah.
esports tournaments. Cool.
Well,
They're great.
and with yeah, I was gonna say with all like the reviews and social media and stuff, like if your game's not good, nobody's gonna buy it. If your game
Mhm.
looked cool back then, you would find it in an arcade.
Right.
It didn't
Yep.
have to be that good. Like it just had to look cool and have a good like
Mhm.
storyline to it, and you'd find it in an arcade.
Right. Right. Not even story, lore. And
Yes, yes, yep, exactly. Yeah, I said it
because
wrong.
yeah, because there was no stories around like the fighting games, right? There wasn't really a
Right.
story,
Yep.
but it was
Yeah,
all in the
exactly.
instruction manual when you bought it,
Right.
or
I
it
mean,
was
there's
being
no
thrown around
storyline
at the
to like
arcade.
dinosaur. Right. There's no storyline to dinosaur fighting. They're just like primal rage and it's dinosaurs, and you're like, oh no shit, I could be a dinosaur. Hey, look at that one's got like spikes on his head that looks like a mohawk, and he's orange. It's
Right.
fucking dope. I'm gonna be him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I just listened to a podcast where they were interviewing people about NBA Jam and
Yeah.
NBA Jams from the 16-bit era, which
Yep.
was real photos. Yeah, maybe not on the characters when they were on the court, but when you were selecting your player, like that was a fucking
Yep.
photo. For
Hell yeah.
sure, that was a photo.
You can find those T-shirts now.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it. I haven't seen them, but it's like, yeah, of course you can.
hmm Yep. You got all
Sick.
those different stats and stuff.
Yeah. And so that was one thing in the, uh, a podcast that I was listening to. They were just like, "Oh, you have to be, you know, Stockton because he can steal." And the programmers were
Oh, yeah.
this was like beta mode in the arcade, so the developers would just hang out in the arcade and watch people play and listen to them, and, no one would have any
Okay.
idea. And the developer was like, "So I heard a kid say that, and there were no stats. Like, every player was exactly equal." But because they thought that, that was how they would
Oh,
play, like, that was and then he's like, "So
right,
I heard that, and I
right.
just went back and programmed that shit in."
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
just
and it
know,
was
like,
like
this is this player's strength, so then they just exactly, that's a good way to think about it. He can
yeah,
steal.
yeah,
Well, they can all steal, it's just that because know that in real life he can steal, you're trying it in game.
right. Yep,
That's
yeah.
awesome to think about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he actually went back and programmed it in so that, people were more likely to steal if they were and stuff like that. So it was really cool to hear, but that's the
That's
lore
crazy.
thing of that era. Like
Yeah,
that's what I was talking about with the lore is just like you didn't have to you didn't have to like see or hear the story. It was just like sort of one of those things that just got passed around, I guess.
that's so funny to me to that's how you got the crossover from, like, actual sports fan to or, like, from tech nerd to actual sports fan.
Oh yeah,
Like,
dude.
"Oh, we can make shots," and then a kid in the game in the arcade is just like, "Stockton knows how to steal, you can steal, they all have their different strengths," or whatever, you know?
Right, right.
And then the guy's just like, "Oh, shit, yeah, stats. They're not all the same. The small white guy isn't the same as Gino."
Right, right, as Shaq, who just fucking
Right,
drives the
yeah,
lane. Yeah.
right. Well, Shaq wasn't in that, but it would've been like Charles Barkley, you know? It's like Charles
Right,
Barkley
yeah.
and John Stockton don't have the same stats. That's very true.
Right.
John Stockton, his dunk stat, real low. But
Right, right. So it was so sick, and I
but
so
everybody could dunk in that game, just to clear that up,
right, I mean, NBA
that
Jam,
was
right?
different.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
dunk it from half court.
You could, and so, actually, that was one of the games that I played. I played with my, 12 or 13-year-old nephew.
Yeah.
We had a great time. He got it. He gets it. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
dude, again, solid fucking game. Now, I think nostalgia kicked in a little bit because I was like, "Couldn't I do that before? Doesn't" but then you also go, "Well, it's a ROM. It might
Yeah.
it might be missing that. I'd have to really, like, plug in the cartridge and play." But, like, it's a side scroller.
Yep.
Break it down. What is NBA Jam? It's a side scroller.
Yep.
Solid as fuck, dude. It's
Yep.
so good. And I don't wanna end the podcast on a note like we're shitting on 3D or that we're shitting on new games because we're not,
Oh,
right? I
no,
mean,
not even a little, dude. Like,
no, no, no,
new games are far superior to the old ones. They're just like
right,
they're still good games given what they are. It's just like, I mean, clearly it's not the same
right.
thing, but it's like a game on your cell phone. There's good games
Right.
on your phone, but
Oh,
clearly one
100%.
on a console or a PC is better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, for sure. And I think even to just like, dude, I mean, the Nintendo was the Nintendo. You fucking can't discredit the NES in any way. You can't.
no. Mm-mm.
But Nintendo games don't always hold up. Most of the Nintendo games don't hold up because they didn't
Yeah.
have enough color. There wasn't enough sound. There wasn't enough memory, generally speaking, to make something that was easy to digest. And then you just make this jump to the 16-bit era and it's like, fuck, dude, these just hold up. And I don't think that's
Yep.
us
Yep.
growing up in that era just saying that.
No, I mean, you just proved it with your nephew, you know? Your
Right.
nephew
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
it. He plays the new stuff. He's young and he
Mhm.
was like totally into the game with you being a 16
Right.
bit old
Yeah.
school,
Good. Yeah.
you
Good
know.
point. Good point. Yeah. Just
So, dude, that's what
solid,
I'm gonna
solid
start.
games.
That's what I'm gonna start my kid on too.
Oh, dude.
Side
Yeah.
scrollers, because it's I'll give you 2 dimensions. We'll talk about 3 when you get the 2 down.
Good point. It's easier to comprehend uh to just get your hands on the controller
Yep.
and get it and just absorb the movements, and then it's like, hey, all right, cool, you got that. Now here's dual sticks.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Hopefully you don't play inverted. I'm kidding, I'm inverted.
I can't handle it. I've tried.
I know.
We've
I
played
know.
games before where we swap controllers, and I'm like, what is happening?
We're always just like, quick start menu, down, down. No, it's 3 down. Right there. Yep, that one. Okay, go.
Right. Bam, bam,
Because
bam,
it's
bam. Go,
online,
go.
you're like just fucking struggling.
Yeah. I tried to, he was above me, and I looked at the floor.
Floor. Oh, fucking A, man. Well, yeah. I didn't know where this was gonna go, but I wanted to bring it up because of that arcade machine, and you really nailed it. I didn't even think about how that my nephew was like, he just got it. It was just like, oh yeah, that one's shoot, that's jump, that's turbo. He's like, okay, got it. And it's like, and we had a great time.
Hell yeah.
You know, uh,
Yep.
I think you're right. It's not just nostalgia. Like that was a breakthrough generation, the 16-bit era.
Yes, it was. Very much so. I
All
believe.
right, man. Let's wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
Real AFTV podcast. You know it because you're listening to it. But does your friend know about it? Does that guy
Yeah.
at the gas
Does he?
station that you stop
Does
at
she?
every morning? Do they know it?
Does they?
Does they? Does your niece know about it? Who is like, she's out there looking at you going, "Unc, what you doing?" And you're just like,
Hmm.
"Fishing off the pier. You want to join me?"
Yeah. Does she? Does she know about it?
Does she know about the podcast? Because we want to expand our podcast to everybody who enjoys fishing, and we have this random take that we do on the back half for some fun. But don't forget, this is a bi-weekly podcast. It comes out every other Monday. And on the off week, we have the fishing topic coming out on Wednesday, and we have the random take coming out on Friday. So if you find this random take boring, you can tell the other people, hey, just go over to YouTube. Look up Real AFTV, Real like fishing reel. On Wednesdays, you can just listen to the fishing part. These
Yeah,
guys are
or
weird.
vice versa. If you're just like, I don't really fish, but I can get down on some 16-bit video games.
That's right. So, if you can help us out there, fellow listeners, by sharing the podcast, that would be great. We're everywhere. We're on Instagram. Well, we're not everywhere because we haven't got the TikTok moving yet, but sheesh, is that fucking Slack channel burning up right now, Tim? You got some good shit on there. God, we got to get moving. Look us up on Instagram. Look us
Ideas.
up on Twitter. Real AF TV. Remember, real like fishing real. We're on the Facebooks as well, and you can find us on the internet at realaf.tv and Patreon, of course. What did I forget, Tim?
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't think so. We're on the major podcast outlets,
Get
and
you a
if we're
monster
not,
bass bag, box bag.
box bag. But yeah, if we're not on your favorite podcast outlet, or you're trying to share it with someone and they're like, I don't know, I listen on this fucking random podcast, let us know.
Yeah.
realaf.tv/contact. And I will do my best to get us up on that feed. Tim,
Yep.
there's one more thing that I forgot to mention
Yeah.
about those fucking one-up machines. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah.
Yep.
We've talked about these things before because